Today we are going to learn the story of Islam from the very beginning. This video is educational and it is meant to help us understand history, culture, and one of the most influential religions in the world. Islam today is followed by more than 1 billion people. But every great story has a beginning. Islam did not appear suddenly. It began in a specific place during a specific time in history in a land filled with tribes, traditions, and many different beliefs. In this video series, we will explore how Islam began, how it grew, and how it spread across the world. We will talk about the people, the struggles, the events, and the powerful moments that shaped this history. And as you listen to this story in simple English, you will also improve your English listening and understanding. This video is for educational purposes only. It explains the historical story of Islam in a respectful and informative way. We respect all religions and beliefs. So, take a deep breath, relax, and let's travel back in time more than 1,400 years ago. Chapter 1: The World Before. Islam Arabia, before the message. To understand Islam, we must first understand what the world looked like before Islam began. Our story starts in the Arabian Peninsula, a large desert region located between Asia, Africa, and Europe. Today, this region includes countries like Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. But more than 1,400 years ago, Arabia looked very different. Most of the land was dry desert. There were very few rivers, and the climate was harsh. Because of this, many people lived a nomadic life. They moved from place to place with their camels and animals searching for water and food. These people were organized into tribes. A tribe was like a large family group. Loyalty to the tribe was extremely important. People protected their tribe and supported each other. But tribes often had conflicts and wars with other tribes. Sometimes these wars lasted many years, even for small reasons. In this society, honor and loyalty were everything. The city of Mecca, the middle of this desert region, was an important city called Mecca. Mecca was not powerful because of farming or armies. Instead, it was powerful because of trade and religion. Many trade routes passed through Mecca. Merchants traveling between Africa, Asia, and the Mediterranean often stopped there. Because of this, Mecca became a busy trading city where goods, ideas, and cultures met. But Mecca was also important for another reason. In the center of the city stood a very old and sacred building called the Kaaba. The Kaaba was a cube-shaped structure that people believed had been built long ago by Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail. Originally, according to tradition, the Kaaba was meant to be a place to worship one God, but over time, the beliefs of many people in Arabia changed. Instead of worshipping one God, many tribes began to worship many idols and statues. These idols were placed inside and around the Kaaba. Some tribes believed the idols represented gods of nature. Others believed they represented spiritual powers. At one time, there were said to be more than 300 idols around the Kaaba. Social life and beliefs. Because of this, tribes from across Arabia would travel to Mecca for religious pilgrimages. This made Mecca both a religious center and a business center. The tribe that controlled Mecca was called the Quraysh tribe. They were powerful and respected across Arabia. Life in Arabia during this time had both strengths and serious problems. On one hand, the people valued hospitality, bravery, poetry, and loyalty. If a traveler came to someone's tent, they were often welcomed and protected. But on the other hand, many serious social problems existed. There were strong tribal divisions. People were often judged only by their tribe, not by their character. The rich and powerful sometimes treated the poor unfairly. Slavery existed, and many slaves had very difficult lives. Women also had limited rights in many tribes. In some places, daughters were not valued as much as sons. Religious beliefs in Arabia were very mixed. Most people practiced polytheism, meaning they believed in many gods. But there were also small groups of people who believed in one God, some Jewish and Christian. Communities lived in nearby regions. There were also individuals known as Hanifs who rejected idol worship and believed in the one God of Abraham. Chapter 2. The birth and early life of Prophet Muhammadin, the city of Mecca. Around the year 570 CE, an important event happened. A child was born who would later become one of the most influential figures in human history. His name was Muhammad, the year of the elephant according to historical tradition. The year Muhammad was born was remembered as the year of the elephant. In that year, a powerful ruler from Yemen named Abraha marched toward Mecca with a large army. His goal was to destroy the Kaaba. Abraha's army even brought elephants, which was something very unusual for the people of Arabia to see, before they could reach the Kaaba. Historical accounts say that large groups of birds appeared in the sky and dropped stones on the army, forcing them to retreat. The army was defeated, and because of this dramatic event, the year became known as the Year of the Elephant. Muhammad's childhood. Muhammad was born into the Quraysh tribe, specifically a respected clan called Banu Hashem. His father's name was Abdullah and his mother's name was Amina. However, his father died while Amina was still pregnant. Muhammad entered the world already an orphan from his father's side, as was common in Mecca. Muhammad spent his early years with a Bedouin family in the desert to learn strong language and survival skills. He was cared for by a woman named Halima. According to tradition, Halima's family experienced many blessings while Muhammad lived with them. After several years, Muhammad returned to his mother. However, when he was about 6 years old, his mother, Amina, passed away. He was now truly an orphan. He was then taken in by his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, a respected leader in Mecca. Sadly, only 2 years later, his grandfather also passed away. Now Muhammad was only 8 years old, and he had already lost his father, mother, and grandfather. After the death of his grandfather, Muhammad was placed under the care of his uncle, Abu Talib, a kind and respected man. Chapter 2 continued. Youth and reputation. Muhammad grew up in the household of his uncle, Abu Talib. Although his uncle was not wealthy, he was a man of great respect. In this home, Muhammad learned the value of hard work, patience, and responsibility. As a young boy, he helped his uncle by taking care of sheep and animals. This may sound like a simple job, but in those days, it taught important skills. A shepherd needed patience, observation, and calm thinking. These qualities would later become important parts of Muhammad's character. As Muhammad grew older, people in Mecca began to notice something special about him. He was known for being honest, trustworthy, and respectful. In a society where business and trade were extremely important, trust meant everything. Merchants needed someone reliable to carry goods and manage trade deals. Because of his strong character, people started calling Muhammad Al-Amin, which means the trustworthy or the honest one. Even people who later disagreed with his message still respected his honesty. When Muhammad was still young, He sometimes traveled with trade caravans to places like Syria. During these travels, he saw different cultures, religions, and ways of life. He met people who followed Christianity and Judaism, and he saw how large civilizations were organized. These experiences helped him understand the wider world and shaped his thinking about society, justice, and faith. Marriage to Khadija when Muhammad was about 25 years old. An important event happened. A respected and wealthy businesswoman in Mecca named Khadija was looking for someone trustworthy to manage her trading business. Many people recommended Muhammad. He handled her business with great integrity and success, and Khadija was deeply impressed by his character. Eventually, she proposed marriage to him. Even though Khadija was older than Muhammad, their marriage became one of the most respected and loving partnerships in Mecca. They supported each other with trust, respect, and loyalty. Together, they had several children, and Muhammad lived a stable and peaceful family life. Chapter 3: The First Revelation and the Beginning of Islam. Though Muhammad lived a normal life as a merchant, he often spent time thinking deeply about the world around him. He saw many problems in society: tribal conflicts, injustice toward the poor, idol worship around the Kaaba, and social inequality. These things troubled him to find peace and understanding. He would leave the busy city and go to a mountain called Jabal al-Nur, the Mountain of Light. Inside that mountain was a small cave called Hira. Muhammad would go to this cave to reflect, pray, and think about life and truth in silence. The night of power when Muhammad was around 40 years old. One night inside the cave of Hira, an unexpected and powerful experience took place. According to Islamic tradition, the angel Gabriel Jibril appeared to him. The angel commanded him to read or recite. Muhammad replied that he did not know how to read. The command came again and again. Then the angel delivered the first words of what would later become part of the Quran. These words spoke about creation and knowledge, telling people to read in the name of the one who created human beings. This moment is known as the first revelation. Frightened and confused, Muhammad ran home to Khadija. He was shaking and asked her to cover him with a blanket. Instead of doubting him, Khadija comforted him. She reminded him that he was a good man who helped the poor and told the truth. Khadija became the first person to believe in his message. Later, they met her relative, Waraka, a learned man familiar with religious traditions. Waraka confirmed that the being who appeared to Muhammad was the same angel who had appeared to earlier prophets, and he warned Muhammad that the path ahead would be difficult. Chapter 4: Persecution, Patience. And the early believers, the message Muhammad shared was simple. There is only one God, Allah. He taught people to stop worshipping idols and instead care for orphans, be honest in business, and treat others fairly at first. He shared this message quietly. The earliest believers included his wife Khadija, his young cousin Ali, his close friend Abu Bakr, and a member of his household named Zayd. These individuals formed the first small group of Muslims, those who submit to the will of God. Opposition in Mecca when Muhammad began speaking more openly. The leaders of the Quraysh tribe became worried. Their power and wealth were tied to the idol worship at the Kaaba. They began to mock Muhammad. But as the group of Muslims grew, the opposition turned into persecution. Muslims with powerful families had some protection, but the poor and enslaved faced terrible treatment. One famous example is Bilal, an enslaved man who was tortured in the hot desert sun with a heavy stone on his chest to make him give up his faith. He refused and was eventually freed by Abu Bakr. The Quraysh offered Muhammad wealth and power to stop preaching, but he refused. Because of the increasing danger, Muhammad advised some followers to migrate to Abyssinia, modern-day Ethiopia, where a just Christian king, the Negus, protected them back in Mecca. The Quraysh organized a total social and economic boycott against Muhammad's clan, the Banu Hashem. For nearly 3 years, they were forbidden from trading or socializing with others. Food became scarce and life was incredibly difficult. But the early Muslims remained patient and did not give up their beliefs. Chapter 4 continued. The year of sadness and the journey to Medina. Eventually, the boycott in Mecca was broken and the agreement was ended. However, soon after, 2 deeply painful events happened in Muhammad's life. First, his beloved wife Khadijah passed away. She had supported him and believed in his message from the very beginning. Shortly after her death, his uncle Abu Talib also passed away. Without Khadijah's emotional support and Abu Talib's tribal protection, Muhammad felt a deep sense of loss. This period became known as the Year of Sadness. Hoping to find new supporters, Muhammad traveled to the city of Taif. However, the leaders there rejected him harshly, and people even threw stones at him as he left. Despite these injuries, he remained patient. The Hijra, the migration around this time. Visitors from a city called Yathrib met Muhammad in Mecca. They were interested in his message of peace and unity to help resolve the conflicts between their own tribes. Over time, more people from Yathrib accepted Islam. Muhammad eventually instructed his followers to move to Yathrib quietly. When the leaders of Mecca discovered the plan, they surrounded Muhammad's house to stop him, but he and his companion, Abu Bakr, managed to escape safely. After hiding in a cave and traveling across the desert, they arrived in Yathrib. The city was renamed Medina, meaning the city of the Prophet. This migration, known as the Hijra, became the starting point of the Islamic calendar. Chapter 5. Building a new community in Medina. The local people who welcomed the migrants were called the Ansar, the helpers. Muhammad paired migrants with helpers to support each other like family, creating a society based on cooperation. The first mosque and the constitution, one of the first things Muhammad did was build a simple mosque made of palm tree trunks and mud. It became the heart of the community, a place for prayer, learning, and discussion. Muhammad also created the Constitution of Medina. This was a written agreement between Muslims, Jewish tribes, and other groups in the city. It established rules for peaceful coexistence, justice, and collective security, making it one of the earliest examples of a multi-community society. Conflict and peace. The leaders of Mecca still viewed the community in Medina as a threat. This led to several battles, including the Battle of Badr, where the smaller Muslim force was victorious, and the Battle of Uhud, where they faced significant losses. Years later, a peace agreement called the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was signed. Although it seemed unfair to some at first, it allowed people to communicate freely, and Islam spread rapidly during this time of peace, when the treaty was eventually broken by an allied tribe. Muhammad led a large group to Mecca. Instead of seeking revenge, he declared general forgiveness and removed the idols from the Kaaba, restoring it to the worship of one God. This was the peaceful conquest of Mecca. Chapter 6. Final years and legacy. 10 years after moving to Medina, Prophet Muhammad performed his final pilgrimage. Thousands of Muslims joined him. During this journey, he delivered the farewell sermon. He taught that all humans are equal regardless of race or tribe, and that what matters most is good character and righteousness. The passing of the Prophet in 632 CE. Shortly after returning to Medina, Muhammad became ill and passed away at the age of 63. The community was devastated. His close friend, Abu Bakr, reminded the people, Muhammad was a messenger, but the message of Islam is about God, who does not die. The spread of knowledge. Abu Bakr was chosen as the first caliph successor. In the following decades, Islam spread through trade and communication into North Africa, Persia, and Central Asia. This led to a golden age where cities like Baghdad and Cordoba became centers of learning. Scholars made huge contributions to mathematics and astronomy, medicine and philosophy. Literature. One of the central elements of Islam remained the Quran, which Muslims believe is the word of God, which Muslims believe contains the message revealed to Prophet Muhammad. The Quran became the foundation of Islamic teachings and guidance. Islam also includes important practices that help shape the daily life of believers. These include acts of worship, charity, fasting, and pilgrimage. These practices help Muslims remember values such as discipline, gratitude, compassion, and responsibility toward others. Today, Islam is one of the largest religions in the world. It is followed by more than 1 billion people across many different countries and cultures. Muslims live in regions across Asia, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and the Americas. Even though cultures and languages are different, many Muslims share common beliefs and traditions that connect them. The meaning of the story of Islam, is not only about events in history. It is also a story about faith, patience, struggle, and change. It began with one man reflecting quietly in a cave. It continued through years of challenges and growth, and over time, it developed into a civilization that influenced large parts of the world. For many people, the history of Islam is not only a story of the past, but also a source of spiritual guidance and cultural identity today. And that brings us to the end of this incredible story. From the silent deserts of Arabia, from a small cave on a quiet mountain, a message began that would eventually reach every corner of the world. What started with one man reflecting alone in the cave of Hira slowly grew into a community, then into a civilization, and eventually into one of the largest religions in human history. A lasting legacy. The story of Islam is not just about historical events or dates. It is a story about faith, patience, struggle, and transformation. It shows how a powerful idea can change societies, inspire people, and shape the course of history for centuries. More than 1,400 years ago, a small group of believers faced hardship, rejection, and many challenges. They lost their homes and faced persecution, and many times their future seemed uncertain. But through patience, determination, and belief, they continued moving forward. Over time, their message spread across deserts, cities, and continents. It influenced cultures, languages, traditions, and communities across the world. Today, millions of people continue to follow the teachings that began during those early moments. In the history of Arabia, understanding. This story helps us understand not only Islam itself, but also the history of many parts of our world. It helps us see how ideas, beliefs, and leadership can influence generations. History is not just about the past. It is also about understanding the present. When we learn about the journeys of people and civilizations, we begin to see how the world we live in today was shaped. Conclusion. And that is why stories like this matter. They remind us that every major movement in history had a beginning. Sometimes it began with a single idea, a single voice, or a single moment that slowly grew into something much bigger than anyone could imagine. I hope this story helped you understand the history of Islam in a clear and simple way. And at the same time, I hope listening to this story in simple English also helped you improve your English and learn something new. Thank you for spending this time with me and traveling through this long journey of history.